a 10-second countdown. Well, good evening to everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to our January 4th EDI board committee meeting. This is our first meeting of the 2021 school year, and I'm so excited to have you all here and to be a part of this conversation. So thank you for being here. Just as a reminder, our meeting is recorded so that the public has the opportunity to either watch it live as it's taking place or to view it at a later date and time. I'm really excited this evening. Not only our new new members who this will just be their second meeting, but we also have our new board members. We have Ms. Adams, who was our co-chair from last year. And so we'd love to provide a time and space for them to introduce themselves and to offer any remarks that they would like. And then I'd love for us to take a little bit of time and to introduce ourselves as well. The agenda was posted a little late, so I'm not sure if all of you have the chance to see it. But after we do our introductions, then we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about our committee work. And then we'll have a brief presentation by Casey Smith. And Casey, if you don't mind just sharing your slides, if that works, I think that might, with my technical skills, it might work better. And then Kirsten, we've got a student recognition update that you guys are working on. And then we'll have our closing if we find ourselves at time. But we've got plenty of time this evening to get to know each other. And I've got a mask on because I'm in the room with someone else. But beneath this mask, there's this huge smile because I'm so excited that all of you are here and we are here to do this work. So with that, I'll actually start, if no one minds, with Ms. Adams.
Dr. Smith, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize to the new members. I did not get to meet you in December. I am so excited. Thank you for offering to be a part of this committee. The work that you are embarking on is incredibly important. For me, this is a bittersweet day. The EDI has been a highlight for me over the past 18 months. Getting to work with all of you, such passionate people that are focused on equity for all kids. It's just, this truly was one of my favorite things to be able to do as a board member, not just for the work that we were doing, but for the people that I got to meet and interact with. You are all incredibly special, and I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to have got to know all of you on some level. And I'm excited to see the work continue. As you know, I was elected chair for this year, and that comes with its own set of responsibilities. And so I figured it was time to pass the baton. We have some other very passionate board members that care deeply about equity in our schools. And for them, I think that you are in very good hands with Stephanie Walker and Hugh Mcmanus, and they are very excited to get moving. And I can't wait to see what everyone does. So should I pass the baton?
Yes, the digital baton. We'll pass it from screen to screen. Yes, yes.
Stephanie Walker's closer to me on the screen, so how about we go to her next then?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And so, Ms. Walker, we'd love for you to introduce yourself to us and share with us anything that you'd like.
Well, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Dr. Smith, and everyone who's here. I'm looking forward to getting to know everybody. I I don't know how much anyone's been paying attention to the election, but so I feel like I'm reintroducing myself all the time. But just for people that don't know me, I'm brand new, and I'm new to the committee also as well. But just from background, I grew up here in Hanover County. I went to school here. I always like to list my schools. That makes me feel cool. College Park was my first school. I went to, then it was Snipes, Tileston for a year. And then I lived in Wales for a year with my grandmother, and I came back to Williston, Hanover. So I graduated from Hanover in 1990. So I am a product of the Hanover County Schools. I'm very proud to say that. And both of my kids are too. They one was a recent graduate in 2017. I have a degree at UNCW, MPA degree. That's a public administration degree. So I tend to look at things sometimes in policy perspective, and then I look at, weaknesses and strengths and things like that. That's kind of how I look at things. But I'm very passionate to be here on the equity committee because equity was a big thing. And I talked about this during the campaign, but it was a big thing for me when I was campaigning, to bring it to light, to us to talk about it, to work on things that I think are very, very important. Like I said, as a kid who grew up here, and when things were a little bit different, the catalyst for me being here is obviously a policy change that happened in 2010 that I wasn't too happy about. So I'm looking forward to really working on some good things. I am a member of some local commissions here, and I do listen. I've been paying attention to a lot of equity issues that I think we could really work on, and I'm excited to hear what you guys have in mind and what you've been working on. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walker. And Mr. Mcmanus, if we could kind of hand it over to you.
Well, good evening. I'm extremely excited about being involved in this. This goes dear to my heart, truly, and more importantly, to hear what everyone else feels and says and what their priorities are. My background: I retired beginning my 4th year. I worked in New Hanover County schools, and of course, after graduate school, worked in other schools on the way to New Hanover County. My wife retired a teacher assistant at College Park, by the way, Stephanie. I don't know if you had her. But you're good friends with my sister-in-law. I do know that, Karen's sister. My last principalship in New Hanover County was at Hoggett. I was there for 9 years. Prior to that, I was at Trask Junior High. I taught at Chestnut Street School, now Snipes. I taught for a year at Roller Grice. And then I left and went to Pender County and went to Topsail High School. I stayed there 9 years, and then I retired from the state and went to Cape Fear. And thought I stayed there a couple of years and double dip, and I stayed 10. So I had a considerable number of years experience in a lot of different environments. I'm really excited, and I want to listen more than I talk, because I know I can talk. A lot of people will agree with that, but I think this is a time for me to listen and hopefully to learn. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be involved in this. So I'm ready. There's Al.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mcmanus.
Thank you.
And so what we'll do now is just briefly have our members just tell you a little bit about themselves. I'll start. LaShawn Smith, I'm Deputy Superintendent. I'm with New Hanover County Schools for a very long time. I started in this district in 1998 as an assistant principal at Williston, and just have enjoyed every opportunity that has been made available to me. And I take the work that we do very seriously, of course, with the Equity Committee, both personally and professionally. And I am so very thankful and appreciative of you all. And so, Ms. Karen Beatty, if you don't mind.
Oh, good evening. I'm trying to troubleshoot a thermostat issue here. So I was trying to listen and do that too. But I'm Karen Beatty, and I retired from New Hanover County Schools as a licensed school social worker. So I'm interested in the work in the committee because, equity in all areas are so important. Retention, recruitment of teachers, student equity all around. Just all of the areas of equity are so important. Until we satisfy all of those areas, then we truly can't say that we have equity in our school system. So I'm happy to be a part of the committee. I also work on a couple of other committees in the community And I have a couple of twin grandsons that are first graders in the public school system here now. They moved in from Mecklenburg County, and a granddaughter who is 8th grade, and they all came in from Mecklenburg County. So I try to keep my eyes on everything and try to see what's happening, not just for them, but for all the students, because it's not about just our children, it's about all of the students. And so that's why, I've tried to do what I can to, move things forward in a more equitable fashion.
Thank you, Ms. Beatty.
Mhm.
If we could have Ms. Turner.
Hey everyone, so my name is Jennifer and I'm one of the community members, and I work at New Hanover Regional Medical Center in continuing professional development, primarily with physicians and dentists. And I'm a certified diversity professional. So with that, I get to work a lot with the health equity team at the hospital, kind of planning courses, teaching some courses. I wasn't born in Wilmington, but I went all the way from elementary through high school here as well. Since we're all naming our schools, Blair, Noble, and Laney. And my children have twins who are second graders at College Park Elementary. So I was a former Spanish interpreter, so working with that specific population. My children are also biracial, bicultural, so our family is very much into everything bicultural with white and Hispanic, and so that's very near and dear to my heart as well. So I'm really thankful to be on this committee and looking forward to what we have in store coming up for 2021.
All right, thank you. All right, and up next, if we could have Kirsten King.
Sure, thank you. Hi, my name is Kirsten Kynes, and I am really happy that we're going through this again, Dr. Smith. I'm writing down everybody's names because I was feeling bad at the last meeting that I wasn't really tracking that as well as I would like to. So I'm brand new to Wilmington. I moved here in August and thrilled to be here. I'm a faculty member, a professor in the School of Social Work at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and a fellow at the Frank Porter Graham Child Development Institute, and just really looking forward to being useful here. And if listening is the best juice I can provide, then that's what I will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And we have Mr. Thaddeus Adams.
Sorry, I had to unmute my mic. Good afternoon, good evening. Thaddeus Adams. I'm currently custodial administrator, New Hanover County Schools, maintenance operations. Been with the school system little over 13 years. Started out in technology before moving over to maintenance. Got on the equity team because I wanted to, I guess, from the technology side, I've seen different aspects. From the maintenance side, I've seen different aspects. And having a daughter that went to New Hanover County Schools, she went to early college, which was totally different aspect from a regular high school. And just listening to some of the stories with some of her friends and things like that, that's just something that kind of stuck with me. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, we appreciate that. And next we have Sina Preziosi. I was practicing, so hopefully I got it right.
Perfect, good job, thank you. Hey everybody, I'm Sina, and this is my second meeting, so I'm also pretty brand new. I wanted to be involved just because this is something that's really important to me. It became even more important in the last few years because I have two boys in school. My son, my oldest is in 4th grade. He's my biological son, and he's at Porter's Neck Elementary this year and was at Ogden last year. And we also have an adopted son, Andre, who's African American, and he was at Ogden. But as if you know the schools, Ogden is like, pretty much all white. So it's been like an issue within my family to find a school where we felt like Andre would, fit in and benefit. And enjoy school, and it's been a struggle. So I'm just coming at it from the lens of like a concerned parent. He is currently at the Wilmington School of the Arts, which is a new charter school because it is diverse. But, you know, so we're just kind of trying to figure out where the best place is for him. Also do some work with my church on the Racial Unity Committee, which I've really enjoyed, and we work with Snipes through that. And so I've seen just the differences in like Snipes versus Ogden has also been a huge learning experience for me. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here and learn. I'm not sure what I can contribute, but I'm happy to do whatever I can to help. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you sharing your stories and just, helping us understand that connection. It's very meaningful and it's extremely powerful. And up next, we have Ms. Rachel Greer, and she is also a member of the work group that the district has.
Good evening, everybody. I'm the principal at Coddington Elementary, and still feels like a very new job to me, but I worked at College Road Early Childhood Center, Johnson Pre-K Center, Bradley Creek, and a summer at Gregory. Serving all of those schools caused me to ask significant questions about why we do what we do and how we enroll students at schools and how we pick who goes where. I have a real strong passion about integrating our schools because I think they're really segregated. I want to see significant change, not only where I work in my location, but also district-wide, to make sure that we are serving our kids as we should be, with high expectations, and allowing them to reach those high expectations that we have for them. So I do that through this committee, the Equity Work Group, as Dr. Smith mentioned. I'm on the task force for student demographics, and where we are making some recommendations for this committee to hear, and also attend the book studies that we are facilitating. So I look forward to working with all of you as partners in this work.
Yes. All right. Thank you for that shout out, Rachel, and thank you, Tyler, for the visual. Up next, we have Casey Smith.
I missed that visual. I'm looking at speaker view. So I'm Casey, and I came to New Hanover County last fall from a decade in Brunswick and a couple of years in Virginia. And in my career, I've been a social studies teacher and a Spanish teacher. Most of those years were Spanish. So now I work at Myrtle Grove Middle School as a coordinator for multi-tiered systems of support. So I do use my Spanish quite a bit in that role with communicating with families and supporting our staff and students. Absolutely love my job and absolutely love my school. That's probably one thing people know about me. Say Myrtle Grove Middle is the best middle school in North Carolina. But as far as specific lens to this work or other relevant things, I guess, I am a trainer for how to be an ally to LGBTQ youth, which is a training out of NCDPI partnership with Shift NC. And I would hope at this point that the relation or the connection that most people see me in this work with is related to students and students' voices. I'm kind of working and operating from a place that like the screen you're looking at right now has a missing component that's pretty crucial, and that's students. So I'm kind of operating always from a place of how do we get to an educational world in which students are consistently a part of, decisions that affect them, and just really passionate about what that looks like in the classroom level and the school level and for us at the district level. And just excited, for new membership and new relationships and finding ways outside of the screen to connect with people, because that's important for our work long term.
Thank you for that, Casey. I appreciate that. And Casey's going to have a presentation for us a little bit later about that student voice and student representation. And up next, we have Lena Espinosa.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited for being here and for getting to know new people and to keep working with this project that we have been together for over 18 months now, and since it first started. And when I saw the application there, it was like, I don't, okay, let me see, why not? And then we got in, and I was very surprised, to be part of this big thing. And I think it's me taking risks all the time. Like, let's see if this works. Let me see what I can do with this option. So I like to do that. I like to as you can see, I'm part of the Latino group and I want to represent not only as a Latinx person, but also as a woman, as a professional. I want to be there and to tell my younger students that it's possible, that everybody can accomplish the dreams if they make the effort and put all the energy. And the missing piece for them is to find the right people to show them the way. So I want to be that person that shows them the way with my example, with my actions, with my words of encouragement, and with the hard work. So I'm always a big believer of don't say it, do it. And that's kind of the work that I do at the International School at Gregory. So my main role there is as a Spanish coordinator. So I work with all the dual language part, but also I serve as an instructional coach. So that role is very powerful because we get to affect the teachers, affect the teaching, but also get to be with the students and helping them with the different struggles and getting connected with the community. So as you can tell, I love what I do and I love to do the hard work. I'm not afraid of working hard or having hard conversations. So I think those are good qualities for this job, especially if we are talking about equity. So this afternoon, after we had the leading equity training today, that I thought it was amazing, we had a very nice conversation with my very close partners, and they say, "Oh, I feel very uncomfortable about this conversation." And I say, "It's supposed to be uncomfortable because it's bringing us awareness on things that we more often, don't talk about. We try to keep it in the hidden. We try not to discuss it, or we try to avoid having the conversation because we are afraid to hurt feelings. So we don't know the big impact that we are having for trying not to hurt feelings. And then we leave this idea keep going and going and going on. For example, not saying the right name to students. And everybody suffered of that. But the attitude or the disposition that we have in trying to change that, those are little big things that we can change, and it's very easy. Just take the time. And then so this kind of conversation, and I say yes, there was the right segue to kind of have that kind of conversations. And we hope to keep growing on having those and making that more in the open and make it a little uncomfortable so we can keep growing as a community. So I'm here to walk the walk and do the talk if it's necessary. And I'm very excited to have new members in this team. Thank you.
And thank you for that, Lena. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to participate in any of the sessions today. So to get that feedback from you and for it to be positive, that is huge. And just for everybody who's here on the call, we are training all of our teachers in awareness around microaggressions and advocacy. So how to be better advocates for our students, and also to understand and have a greater awareness of microaggressions that take place. And so we've got 1,700 teachers, and over the course of 40 sessions throughout the year, we're going to get all 1,700 of our teachers trained in both of those areas. And so today was the first day of training, and we had several sessions. So thank you, Lena, for lifting that up, and I really appreciate that. Let's see. Up next, we've got Sean Lamb.
All right, good evening, everybody. I am a community member as well. My day job is I'm a nuclear engineering manager at GE. And so, being a scientist, I've always kind of wanted to follow the data, and all the research shows that outcomes are better for everybody the more diverse the team gets. And so my early work in equity was primarily in STEM. As you can imagine, I did a lot of coaching for Science Olympiad teams, and I still do, and a lot of AIG participation at many, many schools. And I founded the Girls in Tech seminar, the Girls in Tech Summit, which started about 10 years ago or so. And then in 2012, my son was born, and he has Down syndrome. And so I got to, at age 3, when he aged into the school system, get kind of an education in diversity and neurodiversity, essentially students with disabilities. And he is now a 2nd grader at Blair, and I have 2 little girls as well. I have a 1st grader at Blair, and then a preschool who I assume will go to Blair as well. We had a rocky first year at Ogden, as it was, but moved to get the right services. And a lot of my work has focused on, I've kind of maintained my equity in STEM, but now it's focusing on equity and education for children with disabilities, students with disabilities. I've done quite a bit of work on inclusion conferences with some of the national organizations for children with Down syndrome. And I'm a member of the advisory committee for exceptional services. And I learn a ton about how to advocate for practices that can encourage segregate, or how to avoid encouraging practices that can end segregation for students with disabilities. And most recently, I've joined the board for Communities in Schools, which is another fantastic program that can encourage equity across the board. So that's kind of my background.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Caress Clegg, and Caress is also a member of our district work group.
Hi again. Welcome to the new members. I was not at our last meeting, so I didn't get a chance to meet and listen to you guys, and I am thrilled to hear some of your backgrounds and stories and welcome you to the group. Same to our new board members. I have been with the district for 12 years. I started off and did 8 years at Ogden Elementary, did 2 years at Hoggart High School, and have been at central office with the communication and outreach division for the past 2 years as well. My work in equity can kind of be cemented in my background at Ogden and kind of seeing that atmosphere and environment of what that school is and what it, the population particularly of it, as well as my work at Hoggart and the population, not necessarily in the school itself, but I was the NCVPS coordinator, so North Carolina Virtual Public Schools, worked with a lot of students who took online classes, and the populations of my classes generally worked on being predominantly white students. The few African American students or Hispanic students that I had in my class were either taking credit recovery courses or were taking African American studies courses. So just kind of looking at that population and kind of seeing what we're offering our minority students and how they're at a disadvantage for honors classes, AP courses, online learning, really kind of opened my eyes into the opportunities that are not available or accessible to them. So was very interested to see once I moved to central office that some of these conversations were already going on and being had by people I knew and people I didn't know. So jumped at the chance to join the equity committee and continue these conversations, not just on the board committee, but as a part of the work group as well, and doing book studies and podcast studies and hosting things with many friends on here and participating in everything. So it's just been a really great experience to have so many allies in the work of equity. I also work to produce the district's podcast, as well as a show we have on our NHCS TV network called Diversity Matters. Just as anyone on here, I generally kind of look to the members in these committees and work groups to come on and be guests. I know Sean has been on twice already. I've reached out to Gail, so I'm hoping to get her on soon. But yeah, I'm just looking to make sure we are promoting diversity in all of our communication aspects, whether it's language, photographs, viewership, just making sure our communication is reaching everyone. I'm also a member of the LGBTQIA community, so it's very important as I go into this work endeavor, not just as an African American woman, that we push for equity, but as a bisexual woman, that we push for equity for our LGBTQIA students and staff as well, and make sure they're not left out in this conversation as we move forward. So yeah, that's a little.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Again, as I said, Caress is a part of our work group, and we have at least 4 members here who are both on the work group and the board committee. And so it really does help to keep that work connected, having people in both places. Up next, we have Gail Tabor.
Hey, y'all, I'm Gail. I am a community member. And I'm the pastor of Church on Tap. We're a church that meets at Waterman's Brewery. It seems odd to have church in a bar, but that's what we do. Particularly, we're interested in reaching out to people who have been excluded from churches in other ways, in other places. I think that work continues into the work that we're doing here. Those people who have felt excluded in some way, to find a way to bring them in and to welcome them, to make sure that they are being seen and heard and appreciated for all of the talents and skills that they bring to a classroom. And I also am a member of the LGBTQIA community, and I don't have a dog in this fight because I don't have any kids, but I do have a teacher spouse, and so maybe that's my dog in this fight. Looking forward to continuing this work, to how we can address equity for all the students, all the teachers of all colors and sexual orientations and abilities and disabilities as we move forward.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And up next, Mr. Al O'Brien.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Glad to be on the call with you. I guess suffice it to say that when we got together to first start putting some of these equity committees together, there were, I think, a total of 3 of us. It was Dr. Smith, a counselor, and myself, and we were sitting in an office with zero support at that point, no budget, and just to see the growth that has occurred over the last 3 years under Dr. LaShawn Smith's leadership has been fantastic. And to see the support from the community, with community members on this call, board members. Again, we started with a very small gathering, and it's grown, and we still have a lot of work to do. So clearly we're not where we need to be, but to see the growth that we've had over the last few years and see the direction that we're going is encouraging. And I work under Dr. Smith in the schools division as the director of secondary education, also on the some other committees as well. So glad to be here and look forward to our work together. I can tell you that it's been impactful. That there's so much that that I didn't know that I've been able to be exposed to, and I've learned so much in the last 2 to 3 years. So just very grateful for the opportunity.
I appreciate that, OB. And up next, we've got Kamika Sidberry.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kamika Sidberry, and I am a native Womatonian. I am actually from the city, went to school in the city, and my children went to school in the city. My kids actually graduated. One graduated from Wilmington Early College, and he is currently at A&T studying computer science. And my other son, he is in the Army Reserve. He is currently deployed in Texas. I work at DC Virgo Preparatory Academy as a middle school science and math teacher, and I work at Cape Fear Community College in adult high school. I started as a TA under LaShawn Smith in 2004. While I fell into teaching, she didn't fire me. So here I am today working on my add-on licensure in school administration. Praise God. And so, and so I believe in community educators. We are out there. We just have to be recruited and know that we can do it. There are many individuals that come home from college that have the passion, but feel that they don't have the skill to teach. So if you know, and if you can recruit, or if you can embrace former students, then they are there and they can take places in classroom and make the change that I have done over the years, even as I make mistakes. So currently COVID, what I want to say is one of the things, and I've talked to Dr. Smith about this, and I've talked to other educators within the community, is one of the things I'm passionate about. That is my biggest thing, is to recruit community teachers, because not only does it give you input into what is going on in the educational system, and you get that other lens from someone that is from the community to understand the impacts that the kids have that are going to school within the community, but that sustainability within that household. And that's what it did for me. And so another thing is, one of the things that I began to focus in, all things 2020, COVID kind of gave us a little reflection time. And so with that reflection period, I understood the demands that we as adults put on our students. We put adult issues on children, and that's not fair. And so that is one of the things that I've looked at from an equity issue. Is it fair to put adult problems on children and ask them and think that they're going to excel when we have adults in the classroom that are supposed to be leading these children who are also failing? And so when we look at equity, not only should we look at it from a racial point, but we should look at it from a point of what demands are we placing on the children who are supposed to be playing, who are adolescents, who are supposed to be growing, and who are actually supposed to be making mistakes. I am currently I am the school advisor for Rockamy. I am on the school support team for DC Virgo. I am on the City of Wilmington Commission for African American History. And as I stated, I just love the city. Like, I love Wilmington. Like, it's nothing better than Wilmington growing up here. And that is because the Sidberry family is the greatest. And so I just thank you all. I thank you all for having me serve on this committee, and I promise that I will work well with everyone, but I just appreciate the work that can be done and what I've seen so far through the SMART goals. I just am thankful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. And just as a side note, before the meeting started, I shared with some of you guys that I was listening to a recorded lecture. Well, it was Ms. Sidberry that sent me that 2-hour plus lecture that I was listening to. So I'm about an hour in, almost done. Mr. Tyler Shumate.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tyler Shumate. I am a 5th grade teacher at Alderman Elementary. I have been there, this is the start of my 5th year, and my 10th year overall in teaching. My first 2 years, I was at a charter school, the largest in North Carolina, Rocky Mount Preparatory, and taught 5th grade there for 2 years. And then, to be honest, was completely burned out from teaching and needed to change. So I spent 3 years overseas teaching. I was in Seoul, Korea, and Hong Kong for about 2.5 years, and then spent about 6 months backpacking and traveling as well. And then landed in New Hanover County, back in New Hanover County because I was a UNCW alum. I've enjoyed my time here. I love it. I do love living in the area. I love being very involved in the community in various different roles and aspects. And So that's a little bit about me. Sorry, that would be my cat. I'm also a cat dad, so that would be why my laptop almost fell off. But anyway, so I live over the bridge in Leland. I am passionate about equity work because I'm sure Kamika and anyone else that has worked in a classroom can appreciate that not all students have a voice, or they may feel like they don't have a voice, or their voice may not be heard. So in my mind, my job is to try to keep those students in mind whenever we make these decisions, because I realize as a white male the privilege that I possess. And my job is to take that privilege and to make sure that I'm using it for good, and not to be a detriment to others. So I really try to, look at my students, hear their stories, hear what they talk about, hear where they struggle. Hopefully that's something that COVID has taught us during school closure. Hopefully no one thinks that inequity is just now existing, because it's been around basically ever since 1776 and well before that. But anyway, to digress back on, or to not digress. So equity work is important to me because inequity is something that is as American as apple pie in this country, and it's up to us to figure out every possible way to fix those issues. So a little bit about me.
I appreciate that, Tyler. Thank you. And up next, we've got Franchon Francis.
Hi, I am driving, unfortunately, so I cannot turn my camera on because I need to be safe. And this is currently the life. Every Monday, I'm going to have back-to-back obligations. I'm not very excited about, but it is what it is. My name is Franchon Francis. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I am a certified trauma practitioner and trainer, and I'm the founder of Healing Your Almond, which is a community organization that provides business services. The main reason that I'm on the committee is because I'm a certified trauma trainer and practitioner, which is super important, especially in the intersection of equity, diversity, and inclusion. But also, I basically, to be perfectly honest with you, a community member reached out to me with the first round of applications over a year ago at this point. And she just was very honest, and she was like, "We really need a voice like yours. Please, please, please." And I said yes, thinking, not really knowing what I was saying yes to. I've since been a little more careful about what I say yes to. However, there's some amazing humans in this group, and I love them, which brings me to my next point. I just want to give a shout out real quick while I have the mic to Casey. Casey has, in conjunction with her school, a bunch of people who I don't know. I only know Casey. I know she didn't do this by herself. But she did a great job of organizing a re-engagement night, several nights actually, to kind of figure out how to reach those families that are falling through their gaps. And it's really refreshing to be included in that, but then also to know that someone is thinking about these things, and instead of waiting for, like, for example, the state committee to sign off on it, her and her school just made moves to make it happen. So Casey, I love you for that. And I know that has nothing to do with me, but that's just how I feel. I think it's important that we all know Casey's amazing. And yeah, that's all. That's all I got.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and definitely be safe. We've got a couple of members that came a little bit late, so just to kind of give you a heads up, what we're doing is just introducing ourselves. We've got our new board members with us tonight, and then also if you weren't with us last meeting, we do have some of our new members here as well. And so we'll start with Andy Webb.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Andy Webb and had an appointment, so I apologize. I'm not usually late. And I am a teacher and K-2 instructional coach here in New Hanover County. I am from Fayetteville and taught for 19 years in Cumberland County before leaving to go to DC on a fellowship. So I lived in DC for a year and then I transitioned here. This is my second year on the committee, and I'm very passionate about equity because I believe as long as I've been teaching, I've seen inequity always. And I feel every single child, no matter where you come from, what you look like, what your background is, deserves to have a very, very successful, thorough education. So I'm very passionate about that, like everyone else. So it's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Andy. And we have also with us Kiana Williams.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Hello,
Yes.
everybody. My name is Kiana Williams. I am a alumni of New Hanover County Schools. This work is important because, to me, just because I have seen it in all aspects, from a student to a teacher to now a community partner. So, hello, everybody. And I believe, is Mr. Wildebohr up here?
He is not.
He is not. Okay,
We
Wildebohr
can
was
get
up
any
here.
message to him that you want us to, though. We will.
That used to be my teacher. So, hey, Mr. Wildebohr, and welcome all the new board members and all of the new diversity and equity inclusion members as well. Hello and welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'd love to give a little bit of time and space for Terry Smith, who is my administrative assistant, to introduce herself. She is not officially a member of the committee, but she's at every meeting, and these meetings don't happen without her. So if she doesn't mind turning on her camera, and just so that you can have a name and a face and a voice to go along with this work, it would be great. So Terry Smith. I'm looking at her, so I think she's working on it. Okay, well, I think I broke her computer from last time, and it's yet to be fixed. So maybe at a later meeting, you'll get to meet Terry. But I guarantee you she'll be here, because if she's not here, then none of this gets done. So thank you for those introductions. And I'll say this: I know many of you. We spent a year plus together. I know you, just as Kamika said, from other aspects of our work. But just hearing you tell your stories is just so very powerful. And so I do appreciate you sharing that this evening with us. Up next, what I'd love for us to do is transition to just a brief work group committee update. So within our overall committee, we have two kind of subcommittees, and one is focused on culture and community, and the other is focused on academics. And so I reached out to at least one co-chair for each of those today, just to kind of give them a heads up. And so if you could just give a brief update from your perspective of the work that you've been doing for our new board members, that would be wonderful. And so if you want to begin with you, Lena.
Yes, I can start. Am I allowed to share my screen?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Okay, so I want to start with a kind of quick overview of the way that we are trying to organize our work. And I'm gonna be emphatic on trying to, because sometimes different things come up and we kind of rethink what we are doing, and then we are trying to find like a better way to improve what we're doing. So we are constantly organizing our information, but we are always working based on our SMART goals. So the first thing that we have there is our SMART goals that I don't know to what point the board is already familiar with them, but this is, everybody has in the committee has access to these SMART goals. And we have focused on three main parts, on three SMART goals, and with some more or less success on each of them. So the first one that we start working on was trying to make a direct connection with human resources from the county, like trying to see what the efforts and how we can help in the efforts of recruitment and keeping teachers of colors within our school system, because that has been like a common issue because we all know the reasons. We want students to see people like them representing and in different jobs and in different positions, and so they know that they can see and they can do more with what the education they are having right now. So we had initial meetings with the human resources, but they are in a transition phase right now. So they were having like interims all the way. So we had a couple of great conversations, but nothing that can be settled in stone and given us a timeline because they didn't have a person in place in the position. So right now that is something that we are revisiting. And as soon as we have like a formal information on the person that is going to be in charge, so we can rework our steps and see how can we contribute and how we can unite efforts to make this possible. And that ties with our next SMART goal, that is recruit and retain staff from underrepresented populations. So this is after we get the hiring part kind of like with a system and with an intention, we want to focus on how to retain those teachers, because we know we have teachers that stay, but for different reasons, they don't stay long enough. And we need to do some research on the reasons for that and how we can better that. So that is the other thing that we are working on and we have in place. The other thing, and you are gonna hear more about this, is the student representation. How can we get students involved? How is giving a voice to students in a different way, not the ways that are already established that we know for sure that are biased and become more a popularity contest among the students and really don't give voice to the people that really need to say need to say and need to be there and need to be taken into account. But Casey is going to talk more about that. The other two things, other two SMART goals that we are working, the equitable discipline practices for the students. We have been analyzing data and checking on trends that we have in our county, and we are trying to create strategies to target those inconsistencies and those practices that have been so rooted in our community for so long. The other one is the mental health across the school settings from the social emotional part. And for this one, it's something that we have seen more and more thanks to COVID-19. So it's not an equity committee kind of initiative per se, but we know the county in general is making a big push and making this happening because of the pandemic. So that was these goals. We created these goals throughout the first, I would say, year that we start working as a team. And we have been going through a very interesting transformation, having different subcommittees, and then making some committees where taking the work of some subcommittees was taken over by other institutions. And then when we focus on the culture and climate committee, these are the goals that we have set up right now and the ones that we want to go back and create timelines for those. Now, to make this possible, please, Tyler, if you want to jump in, or Casey, if you want to save me, be free to do it, please. So the other thing, how are we doing this? So we are having, for the most part, we are working on these subcommittees when this general meeting allow us time to do it. Once we get more into the intention of the work, we have been saying that we're going to have more dedicated time to these subcommittees, but that's something that I think we have some room for improvement to be more consistent on what days we're going to work on subcommittees, and then sticking to that schedule so we can see timelines and an action plan that really goes through. So that's something I think we all can agree on, get better at on the way that we are going to address these small meetings so we can get more work done on that regards. However, we have a plan for that. Whenever we meet, we were deciding, because I know Gail got really frustrated because sometimes the meetings are so short and we don't see like much done. And Gail one day called us to order, hey guys, how are we gonna get this done? We are not having like a logical organization for the little time we have. So we come back like spinning, like, like a guinea pig on this little spinning wheels and not going anywhere. So from that idea, Casey called us to order and then told us, hey, we need a running agenda so we can have minutes, so we can see where we started at. So Casey brought this proposal to our committee. And let me see if I can pull the right one. Yes, I think this is it. So these are the former members, the members that started the committee. I know some of them are not here. I think Miss Lisa is not here with us. Is not a member anymore. But for the most part, these are the members of this committee. We don't have the newest members here. I don't know if they already make up their minds if they want to belong to this committee or not. So we are going to include them as soon as they make their choice. So here we have like roles that we want to have in our meetings. And then these are what we call the running agenda, what we want to do and we want to accomplish. So we have a format and we want to stick to this one when we are meeting to take care of the different business that we are to accomplish our SMART goals. The other organizational piece that we have, and this also was thanks to Casey, we have a shared drive that everybody's going to get access. So whatever document that comes through Dr. Smith or whoever put documents together, we try to compile them in one place so we all know how to go back to things, to different resources that we have. Did I miss anything, guys? Help me out.
I think that's a great summary. I mean, I think, us along with everyone else is kind of on, we're trudging through what COVID, trudging through COVID and still trying to make progress where we can. I unfortunately missed the last work group meeting, but no, thank you, because that was good for me as well. I thought it was an excellent meeting.
All right.
Okay, so if you guys have more questions or particulars about this, we hope we can help you. Tyler, Casey, Franchon, all of us, the committee members can tell you all about this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. That was extremely helpful. And for the academic subcommittee, and they also have been tasked with working on eventually a report that we will make to the board where we will include recommendations. I don't know where they are in that conversation, but I did reach out to Mr. O'Brien today, and just wherever you guys are, if you don't mind just providing us with an update.
Sure thing. Thank you, Dr. Smith. And I may call on Rachel in just a few minutes to help fill in any gaps that I may leave here. So when you think about our committee, I think that one of the things we think about when we say the academic piece, we're also really looking at the opportunity piece, because what we see is that there may be strong academics, but opportunities are not equitable, and we want these to be equitable opportunities, not only at the secondary level, but all the way down to pre-K. And so we have goals that speak specifically to that. And then also we think about behaviors, and I think Ms. Sidberry did a great job when she was talking about what we expect of students and what we expect of adults. And so a lot of times the behavior that we're referring to when we talk about this is adult behavior, and what type of training and what have we done to educate our folks to make sure that we're putting the very best materials in front of them, and then materials in front of our students. So behavior is not necessarily what we might typically think of. It's about what behaviors do, and are we training our adults to be proficient in. But Rachel, I think I'm going to turn it over to you just to talk a little bit about exposure. One of our goals is to ensure Head Start and pre-K program site assignment is reflective of the diversity and demographics of accepted students. So I know you're a former pre-K principal and an elementary principal, so I was going to see if I could get you to talk about the pre-K piece and then the elementary piece at some of our magnet schools, because again, this talks about opportunity and what opportunities are provided to some of our students.
Sure. So for those that are new to the organization, we have pre-K centers, and then we have pre-K classrooms at elementary schools, some. And I think we have 7 sites in New Hanover County Schools. Howe and Johnson Pre-K serve the largest number of students, and College Road Early Childhood Center, Castle Hayne, I'm forgetting some of the elementary schools, but they have 1 or 2 classes each. I believe Freeman has a class and maybe 2, in addition to Mosley. And we have been meeting on that goal actually in the diverse student demographic task force. And we've been meeting with our task force members and then Michelle Gray from the pre-K early childhood department. We came up with 3 recommendations for this committee to consider. And I'm not sure about the formality of how those get introduced, discussed, but the ideas are to develop an action plan to spread Head Start slots across sites. They're now all housed at Johnson Pre-K Center. That would potentially really integrate the populations, because right now it's fairly segregated. Exploring whether or not dual funding would help integrating classes across sites. That's something the early childhood department was advocating for a consideration, and then consider serving students in early childhood programs at additional elementary schools. The idea being that if more schools were able to serve the students, we might see more diversity in enrollment. We were surprised to learn that the majority of applications come from, or not the majority of, more, sorry, my words aren't coming to me really clearly right now, but the when we compared the NC Pre-K private sites to the public sites, there was a very big difference in the racial composition of the site assignments, is what I was trying to get at. So I'll leave that there, and if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but that is the basic update of the work of the task force. I am super sorry for the long pause while I tried to find my words.
So the other things that we look at the secondary level in regards to academics are what opportunities are available for our students, and we see a gap when it comes to equity. We see that a lot of our honors courses, our AP courses, courses that are accessed at the community college level don't reflect the makeup of our district. So that is something that we're looking at, and we'll be making goals to try to improve on diversity representation in all of our different programs. And that also is something that we're looking at our early colleges as well. We do a pretty good job at the early colleges in terms of diverse makeup of our student population, more so than we do in our traditional high schools. Looking at our honors courses, AP courses, and our community college courses that are accessed through Cape Fear. So we definitely know that we have some gaps there that need to be addressed. But also just making sure that we're looking at what policies that we may have in place that may be interior barriers for some of our students to be a part of those programs. Things like transportation to signature programs that we have at some of our high schools. So while we want to encourage diversity in all of our classes, sometimes we have barriers in the fact that if a student wants to be a part of the IB program, for example, at Hoggard, well, then you really have to be a student at Hoggard, because we really don't provide transportation for that. So we have some interior barriers that we need to take a look at in regards to opening up some access to our students. Earlier, we spoke about behavior, and one of the things that we have worked hard on over the past 2 to 3 years is actually, and Dr. Smith alluded to this earlier, is providing professional development and training and not just to people that want to be a part of it, but to everybody. Everybody needs to have exposure, and everybody needs to understand things about implicit bias. And I know Dr. Smith mentioned the training that we had today. And again, that is follow-up training from last year. We've also had some significant training for our principals. And so there's just been a real big learning curve that has occurred for a lot of our folks. And it's been a positive thing. And we look forward to continuing that. But that is some of the training that's occurred. And not just stopping at the academic level, looking at making sure that that all staff are trained, not just principals, but making sure that we get that in front of all of our folks. Trying to see if I've missed anything. I think we've covered pretty much everything, Dr. Smith. The only thing I really didn't touch on was, obviously with the global pandemic, we have we've had more emphasis on looking at our SEL curriculums, our social and emotional learning curriculums, and making sure that that is being provided in a more robust fashion than we have in the past. So we do have standalone curriculums now offered at the K-5 level, also the 6-8 level, and still need to work on a 9-12 curriculum. We don't have that, but we're acutely aware that we're doing more things to try to support our students during this time, and don't want that to end. When the pandemic ends, certainly we want the pandemic to end, but not our support for our students. And we definitely want to continue our work with SEL. So I think that covers the bulk of the goals for our committee. Thank you, Rachel, for sharing the kind of the K-5 piece. Dr. Smith, I don't know if I've missed anything that you want to add in on or not.
No, I think that's perfect. I appreciate the update. I just wanted to provide our new board members with at least an overview of the work that you guys are currently working on right now. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, OB, and thank you, Lena, for your update. Anyone want to add anything else in terms of the work of the work groups? Okay. And if not, then what we'll do is move to the next item on the agenda, which is student representation. And I think, Casey, you've got a brief presentation for us?
Just a visual more than anything.
Okay.
I'm going to share my screen, and I will also drop this into the chat box if anybody wants, because I'm only going to really focus on one of these visuals, but there's a couple on here if anyone's curious. At CRS put the website, which I feel like is another real huge success of the work of everyone here and those on the work group, to be able to kind of have that publicly available, and for people to know, who are the names, who are the faces and roles working on this kind of stuff. And one of the things that's on there is a definition of equity under the frequently asked questions. Was it Karen that worked on these?
It was Karen.
Thank you, Karen. I just thought I would pull that up because, we can say things like equity and we can say things like student voice, but if we're not all kind of like calibrated on what exactly that means, we might not be headed in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think for me, when I think about equity, in addition to this reference here, to me, there's a lot about power dynamics, power that has like historically and traditionally been in certain hands, and we're working against decades and centuries of a public education system that has sort of constructed power in certain ways for certain groups of students especially. So that's what I'm going to focus on. And there is a national organization that I have learned a lot from. They're called Student Voice, and they are a nonprofit run fully by students. So I've learned a lot from them, and I thought I would just share that visual. There's another visual on there from early research in the early 1990s. That's the latter. But this is the one that, to kind of provide a little bit of context for New Hanover County Schools. This pyramid is not my pyramid. This is a pyramid directly from the literature on this topic. And what you're looking at is really like what less often happens at the top of the pyramid. So it's very, very common for us to use students as data sources. That is sort of the way of accountability right now. And so I want us to kind of think about how, as you look at the hierarchy here of what's less often done and what becomes more transformative in nature as you get higher on that pyramid, how we might, as a school system over time, really dream big about systematically connecting those different things and having ways over time to measure their impact. So what's on the left is, I will be totally transparent, it's my understanding of I think what maybe as a skeleton we have in place now, and maybe where we might want to dream big. So for those new members, as a little bit of context, we do have students that have been working with a couple of staff members that are on the equity work group who have coordinated, I believe, with the Leading Equity Center to be present and to be kind of walking through similar to how our staff have been doing across the district, but with much more intentionality in terms of it being an opportunity to learn from them and their experiences. I've had the privilege of being able to listen to a lot of that, and there's just a lot of powerful learning happening there. And I think that number one thing there is just the fact that, over time, how do we consistently include students as co-collaborators in this work? And I know last meeting we had, Kirsten referenced an opportunity that was, or an idea that was kind of related to co-collaboration and co-researching. So just thinking long-term about how students are involved in this work, and how, from my vantage point, this work means nothing without students' input, because we can kind of like have all the ideas and look, make lots of decisions, but without really knowing what's happening for students as they enter a school and as they go into a classroom and as they, go through classes and go through their experience, we have a lot to learn there. The second thing is just this idea of sharing power with students and authentic decision-making roles. So if you're thinking about this pyramid, it's really looking beyond more traditional ways that students might have some decision-making, which is really in a lot of scenarios a little bit more tokenistic in nature. It's just kind of like, hey, we got the Student Government Association, and that's what they do. Or we're going to have a prom committee and make sure that students are involved in designing prom. So really thinking about much more transformative ways for students to be involved in where true decisions or authentic decisions are happening that impact them. And I would say about number 3 right now, and I think this is true for a lot of places, that student voice efforts that you see on that pyramid are kind of like happening in pockets, or they're happening in isolation. I work at Myrtle Grove Middle, so I can tell you exactly what that looks like at our school, but I can't say, this is what it's like at other schools, and here's this sort of coordinated plan like across the district. So thinking about how we become more systematic and connect those different structures that exist in classrooms and schools in the district to inform improvement and kind of have that consistent looping feedback. So that's just some like background, I guess, about that particular corner of this work. And I think that one of the things that we were hoping to be able to do tonight, specifically with the new board members, is kind of get an idea of like y'all's thoughts on that, because we had previously spoken specifically in terms of the decision making area. We had spoken on this committee about student representation within the school board itself. And the previous board chair and I had a chance to learn from a student in Prince George County, Maryland. In Maryland, apparently across the state, they have almost 100% across the state have districts that have students involved in their school board in some capacity. This particular student had voting rights. That varies across the state. I've also become aware, I'm sure many of you are aware, in Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system, they have, I think in 2016, began a student advisory kind of group that then eventually created a student advisor role to the board. And so some of the things, I'm not looking at all the stuff in the chat, but I see the recent question about how students are chosen. And that's some of the stuff that we've been trying to learn from the other models. I know more recently the contact in Charlotte Mech talked about those early kinks and how they work through them. And what we got from Maryland is very scripted. It's very specific in terms of, you know, what that process looked like. Because I don't know if, you know, the thought there was what it would have been for me, Kamika, which is, yeah, how are they selected? Is this just taking like the most active student, you know, out of school and giving them this opportunity? And how do we become much more systematic about making the opportunity available across the board? But I think we're at the point where we have a couple of really good contacts for models, and really just wanted to get a feel for Ms. Walker and Mr. Mcmanus, what your thoughts were about these possibilities.
Where's Stephanie?
Oh, I'm here. I apologize. I didn't recognize that was a question to answer now. So yeah, you can go ahead, Hugh, since you began.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
I think it's a good question, and I think that it goes along with the idea of listening to everyone who's involved in the results of our decisions. I also have to say, though, from my principal background, is I try to involve students, but sometimes I think giving them a voting right, that's a discussion, of course. For lack of a better word, liability of that, the consequences or the accountability for that, it is something going to be a difficult discussion of sorts. Because I also think, as was also said, the selection process, I think you're going to have, that may be an issue in who gets selected and how and why and term. Obviously, are we able to, part of that discussion would be what part do these kids know that's going on with situations, and what part are they not allowed to know what's going on just by the legal aspect. So there's a lot of discussion, but I guess my answer, which is what you want to hear, is absolutely it's worth discussing, because a lot of students have great input and a lot of visual.
Well, I agree with that. I agree that students should be part of the discussion. I think many times students are left out of these discussions, but I agree with what Hugh was saying regarding, you know, we obviously you're nailing down the process, finding out what the pitfalls are. I mean, it's definitely worth exploring, and I would definitely love to see a good, you know, kind of well-rounded presentation on it. You know, I don't know what timeline you have for it, but definitely let's discuss it and let's just see what the merits are, the pros, the cons, and everything. And I'm feeling right now it's a good idea, because I mean, I don't think we do have enough student input. You know, but speaking to what he was saying too regarding selection, you know, oftentimes, at least, you know, my daughter's not far from high school where she remembers what it's like, you know, she got on SGA as a freshman, but it is a popularity contest. So, you know, and it's typical to go, oh, let's go to the student government, you know, but they might not necessarily represent all the students. So yeah, selection is going to be really huge. And, you know, how long, and they going to serve together? Is it going to be, so yeah, let's explore it. I'm down for that. Let's explore it and let's see, you know, what that would look like. Voting, I don't know what that would look like either, but let's just explore everything and get a good presentation. And
you don't have to, you know, the first time you get on a diving board, you don't do a 3.5 somersault with it. It could be a slow entrance into being part of meetings and seeking input, et cetera, and then see where it goes and build upon that. And back to what we just reflected on the pyramid, letting the kids talk about how that process should work. The only thing that worries me is the legal aspect, because in order to make decisions about some things, they need to know how we got to that point and how much can we reflect. And there are things that the students we would not want to put them in that situation. So it's a lot, but back to what I said, I think if you begin, you walk before you start trotting, and then
Yeah, I would just add that a lot of the concerns that y'all are referencing are things that I think we have the opportunity to learn a lot from with the other models that are in place without really getting into a lot of the details right now.
yeah, somebody's done their homework in Maryland. It looks like you said. So I mean, maybe that's one. It helps a lot when you've got somebody's got a rubric. I wish we had a pandemic rubric.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Casey, and I appreciate you, Ms. Walker, and you, Mr. McManus, for sharing your views. And it sounds like this is something that we will pick up and just move even further with in terms of our investigation. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I think up next on the agenda, we've got just a brief update about an opportunity, a possibility. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kirsten.
Thanks. It was great to hear that last exchange between Casey and Mr. McManus and Ms. Walker. And what I enjoyed most is, I think what Casey was reminding me of, and we were in conversation a couple of weeks ago, and she reminded me of this too, that to be a truly equitable and inclusive school district would be a radical departure from everything we've done in public education for the past 150 years. And we need to start getting comfortable, like Lena was saying, asking ourselves, well, what are the radical departures we can take? And like Mr. McManus said, we might have to go slow at first in order to go fast eventually. But this isn't going to happen, in my opinion, by empowering the same types of leaders and hoping desperately that those same types of leaders will somehow come up with new ideas for how to produce equity and inclusion. So I'm excited by the idea of giving students an opportunity to teach us how it could be done. It is very possible that the students that we're talking about will be the people in the next 50 years, 70 years, who accomplish the things that we're hoping for so desperately right now. And so the idea that we brought up last week, and I really invite folks who, or last month, folks who heard it and reacted, Kamika and Lena especially had some very positive and important contributions. The idea was, how could we get students to create for us their vision of what an equitable, diverse, and inclusive school district and community would look like? How can they show us through their artwork, through their writing, through their public speaking, what it could look like? And how could we create a space where we invite local community members, activists, politicians, business leaders to learn what the students are teaching us and begin to act on it then? But you can see it's getting back to one of Casey's slides. It's shifting that power. Where the power is typically held by the adults, we'd be giving the power of creative voice to the students. They have it already, but maybe what we'd really be doing is just making a space where we agree to listen to what they're trying to tell us, and then asking our community to be accountable to what they're teaching us. How will we as community leaders, as community members, as community builders, act based on what we've learned? And so I don't know if anybody else wants to speak about it. The initial idea, which really was put forth just as a sacrificial draft, was to have some sort of an opportunity for students to create, and then for their creations to be made public, for people to react to them and move forward based on them. Ideas that came up in reaction, which I think were really important, were that, yeah, but which students? Will it be the usual suspects, or will we really do the work of making sure that the opportunity is equitable and inclusive? Which students, and toward what end? And how does this integrate? I think what I learned in conversation with Casey over the past month is, how does this integrate with what we're already doing, so we're not pulling each other apart, but rather mutually reinforcing all of the good work that's going on? So I'll just leave those ideas on the table for folks to react to and push it forward. We have a budget now to support this work. And so that budget is to be decided upon by this group here. You are in charge of that. So I'll just leave it at that, I guess.
And what I'll say, and I know you guys have had some conversations, maybe if there are others who are interested in working alongside you, they can reach out, and then maybe bringing back a formal proposal of maybe 1 or 2 options that people can kind of vote on. And then maybe, or even taking that and putting that out to students and having students vote on that, I think would be, you know, a helpful idea.
I think that's so super, Dr. Smith. What you're saying makes sense to me. Like in some ways, we're kind of servants of the work, but we would agree to meet here to serve the agenda. But it would be great to get this in front of students, like Kamika put to the chat. And, you know, what would students say back? Would they say, you know, this is actually a lousy idea?
Yeah.
I'd love to give them the opportunity to say that if that's what they thought, you know, or would they build it in a direction that's much more powerful than what we're discussing?
Yeah. And we're working with our work group, with a group of students. I'm sure anything you put in front of them, they'd be willing to give you some feedback. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Folks, believe it or not, we are very close to the end of our time. And so I would love to give some time and space for our new board committee chairperson for the EDI, Ms. Stephanie Walker, to kind of close our meeting out for this evening.
Thank you very much. I have been taking copious notes like I normally do to keep myself organized, very visual. So it's very good to go back and look at it as long as I can read the handwriting. Anyway, I just want to say I'm so impressed. I obviously, you know, at first when I wanted to be on the committee, I asked for this role in the committee because I really want to do the work. And, you know, however long I'm here on this planet, however long I'm here as a school board member, I want to make an impact on my community, our community. You know, I call it mine because I grew up here, and so I really want to see it succeed. I want to see it get better, and I'm very impressed with everyone here and your drive and your willingness to put the hard work into it. And I'm excited to get to know all of you better and to be able to work on a lot of the things that you have on here, and whatever we can do as a board to make it better, make it more inclusive. I'm ready to listen, and I'm ready to, you know, put some of that stuff out there and say, speaking to the aspect of having students join, you know, my children have been invaluable to me when I can bounce back off the ideas off them. They've been to school, they know what it's like at Laney to be shoulder to shoulder with people, you know, to have that perspective is very key. You know, obviously, and that's for teachers as well, and for, you know, we like to bring in the voices that can tell us what it's really like there on the ground. So I'm excited. You're going to learn a little bit more about me. You know, there are other things I care about too. I'm a high ACEs child, so I care about that. I have a child that's Asperger's, and the challenges I faced, you know, in our system here, and then also the challenges my daughter, who was an AIG student, faced here too. So I have a lot to hopefully contribute as well, and I'm looking forward to the work. So thank you very much for listening to go on and on, and I'm looking forward to it. Go ahead, Hugh. Your turn.
You just wait for me, weren't you? I know.
Uh-huh.
I feel like we've probably gotten 100th at most of what y'all have done. It's definitely an ambitious, what I've heard to begin with, which I think needs applauding. My experience has been, which would help me, because I like a rubric of sorts, or I like someone to define priority wise, so that way when the time comes to give all the attention and the resources and the drive, that rather than trying to please 10 different, maybe it's 8 or 7 or 5. So hopefully what I would like to add to this committee is the ambition of so many things that you want to do deserve nothing but medals, and you do not want to lose sight of any of them. But at some point, it would be great for us as new board members to know what maybe some of the major priorities would be, and then we begin to look at those pretty quickly. Because I'm a big believer, if you want something done, do it. And if you don't do it right, then you say, okay, we did it wrong based on what we know. We know more now. We do something. We do it a different way. But it's going to take time to implement anything that's ambitious, which we're finding already. But I applaud each and every one of you. Those of you, I wear trifocals. You can't tell it because these are progressive. But if you would send me a couple of the websites, particularly the one from Maryland and also the EDI that someone sent, I would appreciate it. Email it.
Oh, and I would just want to say too, real quick, I think Dr. Smith, you had talked about maybe doing a presentation in February. Let me know if anybody from any of the groups want to do that, and we can get it on the agenda. I'm going to be part of the February agenda meeting, but all I need is a second, and I'm sure there are plenty of members that will do that to get it on the agenda. And unless there's another process you normally go by. So just let me know. Let us know, unless you want to just put it on yourselves. Like I said, I don't know the processes yet, but I'll be happy to back up whatever you guys want to put to present next month. So.
Well, thank you. And I think we might probably be a little more close to March, but okay. I should know by our next meeting where we are. But yeah, okay. Thank you very much. All right. If there's nothing else, then just want everyone to know that I truly appreciate the time and the energy and effort that you give to this work. And I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful evening.
You too. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Have a good night. Thank you, Dr. Smith, as always.